So lately we have been covering, I guess you could call it the downfall of Black Ops 6 and Warzone, and it appears as though that is still continuing, and I don't really see an end to this until January 28th, at the very least, because January 28th is when we are going to be getting Season 2 for Black Ops 6, and hopefully then is when we receive updates fixing the problems that are currently in the game. Now, I try to kind of put videos on this channel from multiple perspectives, whether that's someone who actually enjoys the game or someone that dislikes the game or anything in between. I try to give the perspectives of everyone, and I think someone that is, generally speaking, just a really positive dude is the Exclusive Ace, and he likes Call of Duty, and he made a video saying it's getting worse in the Call of Duty community, plus hidden skill rating update. So if you didn't already know, he did a video on the hidden skill rating, which can actually be seen in one way or another, and he's going to talk about that in this video as well. So I want to hear his perspective, so let's dive into his video, if it'll play. There we go. What's up, guys? My name is Ace.
What's up, guys? My name is Ace. It seems like things keep getting worse for Call of Duty, and I just wanted to share some updates from a couple videos I made last week. The first one talking about how things are not going super well for Call of Duty right now, at least in the eyes of the core community, and on Steam. It's
I wonder if he made that video before or after the Squid Game event.
really not doing too great. And the second one was actually sharing how to find your skill data via a personal data request.
And we did watch that on the channel.
Now, before we get into all that, obviously this is going to be a fairly negative and critical video, and I just want to be clear up front, I'm not trying to become one of those channels that does nothing but complain or dunk on the game or franchise day after day, making essentially the same.
I don't know if he says this, but I think people like Ace, or even Drifter, who I think we watched yesterday, or many other people actually want to see Call of Duty succeed. I think Blame Truth is a tough one. I was going to say, I think Blame Truth actually wants to see Call of Duty succeed, but at the same time, I don't think he does, because he makes oodles of more money when the game is bad. So I don't know, but I would say the majority of people who play Call of Duty who complain about it actually just want the game to be better. Blame Truth, he has good points sometimes, not all the time, but I don't know. If you asked him, and wonder, this is a good question. I want someone to ask him if he sees this. I'm asking you this question, like, legitimately. Do you want the game to succeed or not? Because I think at this point he doesn't, but
same video with different wording. However, I do feel it's important to keep up with what's going on in the community, and I wanted to share some updates from the videos I made last week. I also want to be clear that as somebody that just plays Black Ops 6 multiplayer public matches, I don't get into ranked at all, and I often have crossplay disabled, so I don't really see aimbots or wall hacks or anything. Overall, on a personal level, I'm still having a good time with this game. I'm still enjoying it, still playing it, still plan on making content on it for those of you guys that are still playing it as well. And while I think it's far from being a totally unplayable and absolutely terrible Call of Duty, or even the worst Call of Duty we've seen in the past several years, there are still some clear issues with it that I have covered extensively.
Let's be honest. Come on. Can anyone legitimately say in the comments to this, like legitimately, that Vanguard is a better game than this? Come on.
Already on this channel. I've already gone deep into this, shared my detailed feedback on it, and I don't really feel the need to keep repeating myself at this stage, simply because I still feel like the ball is in their court. They were on holidays when I shared a lot of that feedback, and it's going to take them some time to get some comms together and get some updates together, and then we'll see what comes of that. Unfortunately, it seems like a very long wait for all of this stuff, which is part of what we'll be covering today.
All the time.
And I will admit the game is starting to feel a little bit more on the stale side, which is why I often like saving the camo grind for the times like this. So I just started really focusing on the camo grind now. So that's how I'm feeling about the game on a personal level at least. But I think it's also important to see what's going on with the community. And right now, things just keep getting worse and worse within the community, and I wanted to touch on that today. The first thing I wanted to point out is circling back to those Steam numbers that we talked about in the video last week. Steam is the only platform where we can get actual player information and data, and we saw about a week ago that Call of Duty had lost about 40% of the
We're over 50% now, by the way.
Player base that it gained from the launch of Black Ops 6, which was a concerning trend, and now it's up to over 50%.
There it is.
And we're essentially back to pre-launch levels of players on Steam.
Yep.
And that's pretty crazy to see just a couple months after the game launched. Just for reference, with Modern Warfare 3, it took them until July to get back to the pre-launch player count of that game. I think they actually did quite a good job of player retention with that game, despite the fact that they didn't have the huge spike of players at the beginning. But this just shows that this trend seems to be getting worse and worse. Now, as I have mentioned in the past, to be clear, this is just on Steam, and it may not be a perfect representation of what's going on with other platforms. Some people are mentioning that Game Pass is the reason for this. I don't buy that, though, because the peak for this on
How would you argue that? Like, I'm just trying to, might be the stupidest sentiment I've ever heard. So Game Pass is the thing that is responsible for the drop off of players on Steam. First of all, if you're playing on Game Pass, you're not on Steam. So that's out the window. But I'm trying to think like the mental gymnastics that you have to pull off to blame that on, because more people would have paid for it on Steam and then jumped over to Game Pass. No, it doesn't make any sense.
Steam was when Black Ops 6 itself launched, not the Warzone integration. So that implies that those people bought the game on Steam. And it wouldn't make sense that Game Pass is now stealing them away because they already paid full price for it on Steam. So then why would they go pay for a subscription to play a game that they already paid full price for? So I don't think that really covers it. Other people have mentioned there are technical issues going on with the game, lots of crashing and stuff, especially on the Steam side of things. So perhaps that does explain it to a degree. And perhaps this trend is much worse on Steam compared to the other platforms. But if I had to guess...
I wish we could see that, but I'm hoping what he's going to say, if he had to guess, it's probably similar on all platforms.
Likely seeing at least similar trends with other platforms. We're still likely seeing fairly big drop-offs here. And that is concerning if you're somebody that wants the franchise to be successful. Now, is the game totally dead like some people are claiming? No, it's still very much alive. You can still hop in, find a game, no problem. Even with crossplay disabled, I'm still finding games very easily, very quick.
I've heard Warzone crossplay disabled, it takes a very long time. I don't know because I play on PC, so I don't have that option, but that's what I've heard.
Quickly. And it is among the top played games on console still.
Yeah, it is.
But in saying that, at least relative to the success of previous Call of Duty games, it's not looking too good for Black Ops 6 and also Warzone at the moment. Now, to top this off, the devs and publisher have been very silent, at least at the time of recording this video. I'm hoping we'll get some comms at some point this week, because it is likely that most of the devs were just getting back to work early this week, like starting on Monday this week.
We didn't.
And I'm assuming they've just been taking a few days to get their bearings, figure out what's going on, and hopefully they're working hard on getting some good comms together, as well as some much-needed updates, obviously. In either case, they really haven't been handling their communication very well, because the little bit that we have seen from them comes off as extremely out of touch. The core community seems to be in absolute shambles right now, and yet all we keep seeing from the official Call of Duty account is
bundles.
All of the new skins you can buy, and the event that's going on, and the premium event pass that you can buy as well. And it really comes off as them totally ignoring the community and how they're feeling about the game and all of the issues that are taking place with the game, and instead they're just marketing all of the things that you can buy within the game. And it seems like the community has really had enough of this. This tweet from Call of Duty yesterday at the time you're watching this video, but today, as the time of me recording this, it's getting ratioed hard, and the response from the community members.
Okay, let me move out of the way of this, because if you guys didn't see this, when they tweeted this one out, like I showed it in a video, like read the room, holy shit, like all of this stuff, like yikes.
Is quite harsh, I think rightfully so, because this is showing that they're really out of touch with what's going on here. Now, if I had to guess,
I think Ace is very good at this, at playing devil's advocate, but I think what he's going to say here is this was probably pre-planned, and all of these tweets and things like that have to go up at certain times. So like there's really no getting around it. It's probably a contractual obligation to what they have with Squid Games as to why it's actually being put out. But
yes, this marketing was likely scheduled far in advance, and I would even bet that it's part of a contractual obligation with the Squid Game crossover.
Again, I swear to you, I will always tell you if I've watched a video first. I have not watched this
Probably
video.
had to do this marketing. That doesn't change the fact that it hasn't been received well at all by the community, because we haven't been getting any other good communication from them. And it's obvious that the community just doesn't feel heard at this point. Funny thing with this as well is they once again got community noted on this. And that community note says, exercise caution when purchasing bundles from the Call of Duty store. There have been multiple reports indicating that one or more items with several bundles may not function as expected, or may be changed to function differently after purchase. So Call of Duty is just getting hit hard on Twitter here.
On all fronts.
And I can definitely understand that frustration, especially from Warzone players, a lot of PC players, and also anybody that's been trying to grind ranked, because that's where it seems like things are at their worst.
Yeah.
I've also noticed many of the top creators, especially on the Warzone side of things, they're not playing Warzone anymore, or they're not playing nearly as much as they used to. They're moving on to things like Marvel Rivals or Delta Force.
So I think the biggest drop off has been to the Warzone side of things and competitive. So I would say that's like about like a third, 2/3 maybe even of the community is Warzone ranked play, and then like maybe 1/3 is multiplayer. But then we also have zombies. And you know what? It might be like all of everyone but zombies hates
recently
it.
talked about how he feels Call of Duty is in the worst state it's ever been in. So again, it just comes off as really out of touch when all we see from the official channels is check out these new skins that we added to the game.
Worst state
Now, like I
ever,
said,
though?
my big hope at the moment is they just got back to the office early this week, and they're working hard on at least some comms to keep us updated on what we can expect in the future, and hopefully they'll be outlining some real tangible improvements to the areas where people are having the biggest problems, namely connection experience as well as the cheating situation. Those are the two biggest issues it seems are floating around the community, and the two biggest reasons that many people are just not playing the game anymore, or not playing nearly as much as they used to. I know, of course, there are other reasons on top of that, like the matchmaking as well. That is a big one. But speaking of matchmaking, since it seems a lot of the core community has been dropping off, and those tend to be a lot more of the higher skilled players, honestly, lately, I feel like the lobbies have been getting easier and easier. I've actually had quite a few lobbies I've just been stomping on, and I'm not doing anything special to get in these lobbies. It's just regular lobbies I'm searching for, even when I'm not partied up.
I've played in some pretty easy ones lately as well.
It's not my usual experience, so perhaps that's an indication that a lot of the core community is leaving, or perhaps they have actually been dialing back the matchmaking on the back end, or maybe they're just running some tests.
Oh my god, could you imagine? Could you imagine if they went, well, over Christmas break, we have dialed back the skill-based matchmaking of the game, and players have dropped off more and more, and then blame it on that? Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
Cohort of players like they did last year with Modern Warfare 3 to see what the reception is with different levels of skill-based matchmaking. But in either case, that's an update on all of those areas. The last thing I wanted to talk about in this video is an update on that video I made last week, talking about how to retrieve your hidden skill rate.
Okay, so basically there was a way, I don't know how he's going to frame this, but there was a way that you could go on the Activision website. You could request your information for your profile, and they would send you all of your information of all of the games that you've played, including your skill rating. And Ace asked everyone to go do this and send him the data. Well, let's see what he says.
From Call of Duty by submitting a personal data request, because skill rating is part of the personal data they have stored on you. And I was able to submit this request, and I received my update within 24 hours. However, that was before I made the video on it, and that video blew up quite a bit. A lot of other people made videos on that as well and really spread the word on it. And since making that video, I have yet to see a single person mention that they have received their data since they submitted it, even if they submitted it like the moment they saw the video. So my best guess here is previously that system probably only saw the odd request here or there.
So here's what's interesting to me is I'm pretty sure that legally in the UK, they have to show you that data. So I don't know how that works for everyone outside of the UK. Like if you're not in that region, they might not give it to you. I know Ace is not. I believe he's still a fellow Canadian like myself. But I'm curious if maybe you're in the UK and have submitted it. Let me know down in the comments if you got it, because from what I've heard, no one has got it since then.
From the very few people that knew that they could even do this. And then for those that did know that they could do this, they probably didn't know that their skill rating was accessible to this, so they just didn't bother doing it. Since I made that video, they likely got flooded with tens of thousands of requests at a time, and I think we totally overwhelmed and flooded their system. Which is a bit surprising to me. It seems unlikely that they'd be using a manual system for such a big company with so many users. But if that's the case, I'm sorry to the individuals that are responsible for handling all this, because I probably ruined their month entirely. In either case, my understanding of the situation is that at least in many regions, like the EU, it's actually a legal requirement for them to provide this data to you if you request it. So especially if you're from a region where it's required, I'm sure it's coming, and it's just held up right now because they're totally flooded and overwhelmed. But as for when it's going to be coming, I have no idea. Obviously, I'm hoping it'll come sooner rather than later. I'm really curious to see what data other people have, and maybe we could start putting together what a good skill rating is, a bad skill rating, an average skill rating. It would be kind of nice to know where you stand based on that, since the game itself doesn't tell you, even though your gameplay experience is heavily altered depending on what that value that's attached to your account that you can't see.
Either show us
but
or get
that's
rid
kind
of
of where we're at with that, and that's going to wrap it up for all of the updates right now. It seems like things are not getting better at the moment.
By the way, so this whole skill-based matchmaking thing, and I never said this in my video about it, if they took that number, say it's like a number between 1 and 10, and displayed it almost as if it was a level in game, I don't think it would deter players. I think it might increase retention to visually show your skill rating go up and down in game. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hopefully that's going to be changing soon. Hopefully we'll be getting some comms from them and some solid updates that address some of the bigger issues. But at the moment, the community is still left hanging, and we're just waiting for something. Or in the case of many, they've actually given up on waiting and they've just moved on to other games. And with that, I'm just curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about the current state of Call of Duty? It would be helpful to know like what modes you generally play the most as well. Are you like me? Are you just playing regular multiplayer and still generally enjoying yourself? Or not? Have you fallen off the game? Are you playing less? Are you not playing at all?
So I still enjoy Black Ops 6, but I get bored of it incredibly quickly. And I don't know really why that is, but it's absolutely a thing.
Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
So this is a complete side note. I agree with a bunch of what Ace said. I think he gives a pretty good perspective, a much more positive perspective than we're used to seeing on the channel. But I just got a text from my mom. I'm recording this on the 12th of January, and I think this is going up on the 12th of January. If you haven't heard, there's these wildfires going on in California. Now, if you don't know, I trained to be a firefighter and a paramedic, and this has been like a pretty massive world event, and my job is online, and I'm on Twitter a lot of the time. If you don't follow me on Twitter, click the link in the description. My mom just messaged me today, and I'm going to read it word for word. Have you seen the images of the Los Angeles on fire? Buildings on fire from the wildfires. Like I wouldn't know what... Like, I love you, Mom, but like,